bomb blew up the Kremlin. The president has initiated Ghost Protocol. The entire IMF has been disavowed.
Hi Brad.
Hello.
I'm Lily from FILMCLUB and I'm a young ambassador. With this film being the 4th in the Mission Impossible series, did you feel any pressure to make it bigger and better than the previous 3?
Well, I think there's always that pressure when you're dealing with a sequel, particularly a 3rd sequel, the pressure of expectations. But I think that you can use those expectations, you know, to your advantage. If you design it so that the audience thinks you're going to go left and then suddenly you yank the wheel and go right, it can be a lot of fun for the audience. And I think we did that in this movie. And it is the biggest Mission Impossible film, I think, physically.
I agree with that. And the techniques used by Ethan Hunt's team were quite mind-blowing, you know, the contact lens and the gloves.
Some good gadgets. Not the most reliable, but...
No. I was wondering, where did you find the inspiration to come up with such creative ideas?
Well, a lot of them were in the script when I got involved, but they also, J.J. Abrams, the producer who produced the film with Brian Burke and Tom Cruise, basically said to me, you know, are there any things that you would love to see in a spy film? And so I had a number of things that I wanted to see, and that's the kind of question every director wants a producer to ask. And so a lot of the ideas wound up in the film.
Now I've been ordered to take you to Washington, where they will hang the Kremlin bombing on you and your team, unless you were to escape after assaulting Brandt and me. But if any one of your team is caught, they will be branded terrorists, out to incite global nuclear war.
Could you briefly tell us about your character in the film, and do you think there's any similarities between her and yourself?
Well, I play Jane Carter in the film, and she's a very interesting woman. She's fierce and someone to contend with, but she's still vulnerable and quite feminine. And when you meet her at the beginning of the film, she's experienced a great loss, and then a failure, and she has to right the wrongs that have been done to her. And is she like me? In some ways, whenever I play a character, I try to find some element of myself that's like the person, whether it be just a granule or a great amount, and perhaps she's a fantasy of what I'd like to be, and an exaggeration. But I think, like all women, we have a fierce, strong side, and then we have a vulnerable side, and we have to prove ourselves in difficult situations. So I think in many ways she's like many women.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, now remember, blue is glue.
And when it's red?
Dead.
Yeah, I played Benji Dunn, who is a character that was in the 3rd Mission Impossible film. But in that film, he was very much tied to his desk in the laboratory. He was sort of a research and development consultant. And in this film, he has now passed the exam and is a fully fledged agent. So Benji's changed quite a bit since the last time we saw him. And yeah, he's a huge fun character to play because he's very light-hearted and he's a bit sort of, he doesn't take life too seriously.
My personal favourite scene from the film was the skyscraper climbing one.
Crazy.
What was your favourite scene and why?
My favourite scene in the film is when Benji and Ethan try and get into the Kremlin by using a big screen to make the corridor look empty. Yeah. And that was so much fun to shoot, and I love how audacious that is because they really have one shot at doing this thing. It really is the only way they can, you know, break into the most secure vault in the world. And it's so naughty what they do, it's kind of funny. And they actually manage almost to get away with it, which is, you know, kind of thrilling.
So what happens now? Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
So, what's the play?
What did you find the most challenging scene to film, and how did you end up doing it?
Well, I think the obvious one is the sequence on the tallest building in the world, just because we were not you know, leaning on special effects. Tom Cruise was actually there, you know, on a very thin wire, doing all of these amazing stunts. And we filmed that section of the movie in IMAX, which is a large negative process that is really sharp and really clear on a really big screen. So if you see it that way on a really big screen, it's very impressive. But the truth of the matter is the film has a number of really big sequences, and they were all challenging in their own way. There's this big sequence in a prison, there's this a chase in a sandstorm, there's a big sequence in a car park at the end. You know, it goes on and on.